everyone, Jojo and I wanted to do a quick video today to demonstrate some board breaking techniques and ways to hold the boards. That's actually more important for some of us than the technique is make sure that the boards are being held properly, because sometimes the techniques can be great, but if the boards aren't held in the direction that allows the grain to break, we can get hurt. And we know that a lot of you have purchased and have rebreakable boards at home, and others have boards left over. You might have bought extra boards to practice with at the last tournament, and you've got those at home, and I've seen some videos of some really good techniques being practiced, and that's great. We just want to go over a few things to make sure we're doing our home practice as safely as possible. So, number one, whether you're breaking a little kid board or the adult boards or the junior boards in between, they're going to be narrower this way than they are up and down. And we always want to place our hands on the long sides, okay, up here, on either end here. We never want to hold this board so that our fingers are very close together and our palm heels are very close together. That would be against the grain. And none of the boards, whether the rebreakable or the actual wood boards, any size, we would never hold them like this. The other thing we want to emphasize is that when we're holding a board, whether it's one hand, two hand, straight out, or for a downward technique, it's always the palm heel that is doing the support. So I've got that part of my hand back, and my thumbs should be on the side. They should not be down towards the middle. I'm going to keep my thumbs on the side. That's going to allow the center third of the board to be, or even more than the center third, to be used for breaking. And there should be a clear path between that side of the board and the other side. So first thing we'll go through, simplest technique that we typically break with, when we start with, is axe kick. And before we even put the board up, we want to make sure that whoever is kicking the board remembers it's only the heel that touches, and we want to aim to the center. Okay, good? The next thing, we want to make sure our distancing is correct. We often have to be a little closer than we think, because we're going to have to bring our foot up on the outside of the hands, kind of wide, and then down in the middle. All right, so make sure you're close enough. You can slide back an inch. And even though Jojo might pick his foot way up here, most of our kids can axe kick from at their head height or higher. I'm never going to place this board higher than the patch on their uniform. Solar plexus level, waist level, and that's because we have to allow a little bit of room to get outside. In practice, we might use a narrower reach on the way up. So we're going to hold this lower to make sure they've got enough room to get around, and then enough room to get speed and actually break that board. So I'm going to put this about this level here. My palm heels are underneath. I'm going to have my elbows in on my body, and that's going to create some extra support. I don't want to hold the board here. If he comes down pretty hard, but maybe not hard enough, it's going to move my arms, and his foot's not going to feel great. So I'm going to have my arms here, palm heels behind. My thumbs are on the side. They're not in here. It's one board, so I'm going to keep my thumbs way out. They're not providing any support at all. You can have hands up, Jojo. Key up when you're ready. And go. All right, good job. Check it out. All right, so if we're breaking these boards here, you probably have them from the last tournament, and we probably had you doing a hammer fist at the last tournament as one of our recommended board breaks. So if we're going to use our right hand, let's show us how we get set up for right hand hammer fist. The board holder is going to do the same thing. We're going to hold the board somewhere between his belt and solar plexus. We're going to have our elbows into our side. We're going to have our palm heels back, our thumbs out of the way. We want to make sure that if the person breaking wants to use their right hand, their opposite foot should be forward, so that this side is swinging and the opposite side of your body is supporting. We also want to make sure that you reach up high, and this hand is down low. So when one hand is down, the other hand is in motion back. We're using our whole body to sink through that board there. So do one slow. Show me that your hand's going to go in the right spot. Ready? Key up when ready. Go! All right, very good. Chedi up. And kunye. So, those are the basic ways to hold for downward technique, whether it's an axe kick, hammer fist, knife hand strike, any downward technique, you want to make sure you get those elbows in. The next step that we work towards is holding for side kicks, holding for back kicks, and the biggest mistake after holding the board against the grain that we see is that we have the grain going up and down. Holders will go from here to here, and that's not the way his foot is going to be hitting the board. So put your foot up. Your foot's going to be hitting the board this way. We want the board breaking grain to go this way as well, just like that. So if the axe kick was coming down, boom, your foot is always this way on the board. So side kicks are going to be here. I'm even going to hold here for back kicks. Technically, your foot's supposed to be vertical on a back kick, but it almost never is when we're board breaking. So we want to hold for that side kick position. So take your distance for side kick. My palm heels are going to be back. My thumbs are out of the way. Put your foot up real slow. Distancing wise, side kick. Side kick. Distancing wise, I want to make sure he can get through, right through to his calf. All right, so that's going to be my distance for holding the board right here. I want to make sure there's plenty of room for him to extend through the target. So that's your distance. Take your stance, bend your knees. Make sure your knee comes up high to your chest. And kia. That's it. Chaya. Kung yen. All right. So you wanted to do a spin back kick. So when I'm holding for a spin back kick, I'm actually going to take your side stance. Move over this way a little bit. So your body is going to rotate, and I'm going to hold this board so the edge of the board is in line with the shoulder. I'm not going to center it on the shoulder. I'm going to hold the edge of the board to his shoulder, because as his body rotates, that's going to be the width of his shoulders, and that's where the kick is going to come from. So get your distance again so you have room to push through. And then, kia. That's it. Good. Chaya. Yeah. So, the other position, hook kicks. All right, kicks that go side to side. Let's do a regular. You want to do a spin hook kick? Okay, so stand on this side so we can get it on the video. Hit my hand with a spin hook kick. All right, so it's going across, side to side, parallel to the floor. And the way I'm going to hold that board, again, is up and down with the grain going parallel to the floor. There's a few different ways to hold, and we'll try all three. The third one, we might not have enough speed yet, but we'll try it. So the first way is a power break. Same as the others, I've just rotated my body 90 degrees, and I'm going to hold this board, stop moving. Make your side stance. I'm going to hold this board behind his back, not in front, so that he has room to go all the way through. Ready? Spin hook kick. Here. All right, very good. That's called a power break. So my whole body, my back is bracing it, and I've got good solid hold. And the next step, as you might see the board being held here. So there's a lot more room for this arm to be moved by the power of that kick. Does your foot hurt? All right, so we won't do this one. So if your foot hurts, don't keep hitting it, okay? Don't keep doing that same break. But the next break would be here, where my arms can move and there's less support. So without adding boards to make the difficulty level higher, I use the same number of boards, but I reduce the support. I keep the grain going the same way, and I would hold here. Stand at Chubi Jodo. Okay. And then the third way to hold for hook kick, which we won't do because your foot is sore, is a speed break where the board can be floppy, and you got to make sure this side is clear. That board is the top half is going to be broken off. Okay. That way. All right, so one of the other things that we'll talk about, we'll use your right foot for the side kick, okay, is the rebreakable boards. Rebreakable boards, we use them all the time in class. They have difficulty levels of yellow for the easiest, blue is the middle one, red's hard, and then the black ones, we don't really sell that many of. They're really hard out of the package. And they're really hard, even the yellows, when you take them home and try and break them for the first time. These are usually good for 200, 300, 400 breaks. And the ones we have in class have been broken lots. When you get one fresh out of the package, it's going to be kind of hard to break. Parents might have to break it over their knee to loosen up some of the plastic, get it to flex a little bit. And the other thing that you can do is not slide it all the way in. So if it's a new rebreakable board that you may not have used a lot, and now you're looking and saying, I've got some time to break these, and I want to practice, you do not have to slide the board all the way to here. You can slide it halfway or 3/4, and we can still break it. There's just going to be less surface area to provide resistance. So let's do a side kick. We'll hold it this way. Use your right foot. Go ahead. pretty easy, okay? When I slide it back together, everything holds true that we talked about with the regular boards. The grain should go side to side. This should be flat to the ground. As I'm doing a side kick or a back kick, go ahead and take a big stance. You're gonna have to hit this one harder now. Move back a little bit. Okay, I'm gonna hold it the same way. Full and kick. All right, so you hit way down by my finger. You bent the board. The other thing about these is that you really have to hit on the line. The real boards, you can hit them off center, and if you hit them hard enough, they'll break. These are not really gonna break unless you hit it real close or exactly on the line, so they're good for focus. Go ahead. All right. Let's try a blue one. A little bit harder. The middle. Good. If you've got a red one, this one's fairly new. This is going to be super difficult. You really might need to take it down or have a parent break it a few times to just loosen it up a bit. All right, here's your final challenge. Ready? Set, big stance, hard kick. One more. Good job. Now, the only other thing we'll say is that if the kids aren't breaking it on the first try, on the second try, we don't want to keep hitting. As the foot or the hand starts to hurt, they're going to start pulling back and they're not going to hit it with as much confidence, and you're not going to gain anything by doing that. Rebreakable boards are tough out of the box, but then eventually it's a really good training tool. These can be expensive because they can be used once, and but these can also be a little bit hard. The boards themselves, wood is going to absorb water. Some boards are going to be like this one here. This is a good example. I should not really be able to bend a kid's board this much, but this one took in a lot of moisture. It's going to be very difficult to break. It will break, but it won't break as quickly as one that's dry. So if you've got a few of these left over from the tournament, if they've dried out, I'm sure they're no problem. If anything was either left outside or in a moist area, and you can give it a little bit of a flex in your fingers, kids' board should not do that. Don't keep hitting this 3, 4, 5, 6 times. Just put it aside and get a different one. Okay? You can hit it once as a challenge, but eventually this is not going to build confidence. We're going to reduce confidence by hitting something that's just not realistic as far as the challenge should go. So those are our tips for breaking boards. If you guys have questions or you've got other techniques, more advanced techniques that you want to hold for at home, please shoot us a note, shoot me an email, describe it, or even take a picture about what you were thinking about trying and make sure we got it down correctly so that you can practice that technique and do so safely at home. All right, let's file out. Chedia. Face here. Kunye. Air 5.